How the Great Pyramid was built is perhaps the greatest mystery of the current age. This ancient monument is the greatest architectural achievement that has ever been built on this earth by man, even surpassing anything built in our modern day. The very fact even today, over 4,500 years after it was built, nobody has yet been able to provide a plausible or provable theory as to how it was constructed by man. The pyramid stands almost 500 feet tall and covers an astonishing footprint of over 13 acres, and is made of approximately 2.5 million blocks of stone, each weighing approximately 5,000 pounds. There is no other structure that mankind has ever built, even in our modern age, which matches the magnitudes of this pyramid. So how could ancient man, prior to 2500 BC, have built it? Many theories have been offered, some people going far out of their way to use complicated physics to explain in desperation how the heavy blocks were cut, moved, and positioned. The age-old excuse as to how the pyramid was built says that it was built just by bare human hands, by the combined raw human strength of between 50,000 and 100,000 individuals, allegedly working relentlessly for decades until completion. The fact that ancient Egyptians lacked any sophisticated tools or technology, even appropriate metals to work with, or any substantial knowledge of physics, is well known to everyone familiar with the Great Pyramid. And Egyptians did not need to use out-of-place knowledge such as hydraulic pressure by building lengthy systems of canals and dike systems to move and elevate stones. Seeing as modern equipment is needed such as large cranes to move and stack stones of this weight, it is impossible that ancient Egyptians who were at the dawn of technological achievement would be capable of using primitive equivalents of machines to construct the pyramid. You may be able to rope together thousands of people and force them to slide and move 5,000-pound stone blocks, but you could not in any way manage to lift and stack 2.5 million of these blocks up to 500 feet in the air and fit with utmost precision. Many people ascribe to an ancient astronaut theory, as it is a quick solution to the problem. They say, it's easy, extraterrestrials built it. Extraterrestrials most certainly would not build a Neolithic stone structure which serves no known purpose or function. If extraterrestrials wanted to set up base on Earth, or influence and impress mankind, they would not use primitive stone building techniques. If they flew here on interstellar craft made of advanced metals and high-tech equipment, why would they stack stone blocks? The pyramid was not a base or city for or by extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials could have landed a 1,000-foot-tall titanium obelisk with multicolored lights and planted it in the Egyptian landscape if they wanted to impress and influence ancient man. Extraterrestrials likewise would have built a base or city by their technological standard if they landed here to live. So using logic and common sense, we can see that extraterrestrials had nothing to do with the pyramid. An alien did not give a blueprint to an ancient human, as the human would lack the ability to build it. An alien did not give an ancient human some assortment of alien technology and machines with which to build the pyramid. The pyramid is a crude and primitive, albeit fantastic and seemingly impossible, stone structure. It only appears to be advanced or impossible because nobody has realized how it was built. There is one thing everyone has overlooked or ignored or denied. That is, the ancient peoples who built the pyramid used something available on Earth at the time to build it. And what was that? It was something that would enable them to move, position, lift, and even cut the heavy stone blocks with ease. It does not involve aliens or out-of-place knowledge or technology. But it is something which nobody else has considered. The world and history of theories seems devoid of this concept that I am going to suggest. Even the scholars have overlooked this one and denied the premise of it because they assumed the pyramid was built by dynastic Egypt, and the thing I am suggesting they say did not exist in Egypt back then. However, I am about to show you proof of my theory. So what was this thing that helped the ancient peoples build the Great Pyramid? The thing that scholars say did not exist in dynastic Egypt? Let me first state that their stance is based on the erroneous opinion that the Great Pyramid was built during dynastic times, and their refusal to accept it was built in pre-dynastic times. The thing that did indeed exist in Egypt during pre-dynastic times, but which did vanish during the dynastic times, the very thing that I am saying the peoples used to build the Great Pyramid, were elephants. Scholars say there were no elephants in dynastic Egypt, and by this notion they squash the very premise of elephants being used for the labor, and do not even consider the theory. However, the notion is based upon the assumption, which itself has no proof, that the Great Pyramid was built during dynastic times, possibly for Khufu. However, brief research into the truth reveals that elephants did indeed exist in ancient Egypt, and scholars report that prehistoric predynastic tribes drove them out of the land, as the elephants were so numerous they were destroying crops and settlements. But what this shows us is that elephants did indeed exist in Egypt in predynastic times. The Naqada culture preceded dynastic Egypt, and whilst dynastic art only rarely depicts elephants, Naqada art frequently depicts elephants, and displays a historical reality that elephants were numerous in the land during the predynastic Naqada phase, and that the people utilized elephants, and even rode them. How this oversight could be made by the greater community of enthusiasts is beyond me. The fact is, predynastic Naqada people gave birth to the dynastic Egypt we know of. They even created the hieroglyphs and art form that dynastic Egypt would later utilize. And in the Naqada art and hieroglyphs, we can see there were elephants, and they used elephants. African elephants are some of the largest animals that ever walked this earth, standing up to 13 feet tall and weighing up to 13,000 pounds or more. 2 elephants, with a combined mass of 26,000 pounds, could easily pull a 5,000-pound stone block, whether on wheels or sled, over the land at great distance. 5,000 pounds would only be 20% of their combined mass, and would allow for longer transport between rest stops. A fleet of 1,000 elephants would still require 4,500 trips, at 520 blocks per trip, to transport all the 2.5 million blocks for the Great Pyramid. If one such trip was made per day, giving plenty of time to rest and replenish the elephants and keep them happy, then it would take less than 14 years to transport all the stone, by which time the construction of the pyramid would also be nearing its end. The 13-acre base platform would be plowed flat by teams of elephants using giant plows, similar to how a bulldozer snowplow works today. The elephants would also help stamp the ground and make it very dense in the process. In regards to the positioning of stones once they are dropped off at the building site, this can be resolved by situating approximately 2 elephants at every half-acre location out of the 13 acres base, thus requiring 52 elephants overall. At each site, the 2 elephants situated there would be used to move and position all the stones in place, and to squeeze them tight up against one another. The use of shoulder harnesses on the elephants, mounted with a large horizontal beam of wood with a 90-degree angle clasped at the end, could be used to quickly and efficiently push each block in meticulous fashion to attain exquisite fit. A rotation of duty could have been done with the elephants being used overall, so that the ones who trick the stones to the building site can then rest on site and function as those who position stones. This way, the workload would be spread out amidst the elephants, which would help keep them happy and prevent uprising. The elephants would have water from the Nile, and teams of people would have to transport food for the elephants along the transport journey and on the building site. The pyramid would have been built from the bottom up, and from the inside out. A 500-foot-tall ramp would have been needed, but built in stages, which would corkscrew around the building site as progress proceeded, taking ramp material from the rear of the ramp and depositing at the front of the ramp as progress continued. This way, the overall ramp size is minimized, but at completion of the top of the pyramid, the end ramp would be near 500 feet tall. Again, elephants would make the construction of such a ramp possible, whereas it would be another seemingly impossible task for just the hands of men to accomplish. This ramp would likely be at least 50% of the size of the Great Pyramid itself, and could not be achieved by hand shovels. Again, if elephants were used, they would trample the sand ramp as they formed it with plows, and help make it dense and safer to transport the heavy blocks up. With construction going upwards level by level, and with each level being accessed by the progressive ramp, and with each level being built from the center outwards, there will be reduced need for any form of cranes or lifting devices. Blocks arriving at the building site will be pushed along the surface of the tops of the stones which comprise the level underfoot which was prior completed. There would be no need for lifting. However, the strong elephants, capable of uprooting trees with just their trunks, are more than sufficient to provide the power source for any lifting mechanism the ancient peoples utilized for such tasks. A large seesaw could be used to elevate a stone block up a set height, such as 6 or 10 feet, with the ends tapered to allow blocks to be pushed onto, and then an elephant would stand on the other end of the seesaw, propelling the other end with the block upwards to the required platform. A simple wedge shape on the seesaw can hold the block in place and prevent it sliding down the seesaw as it rises. Any form of crude crane could also utilize the power of elephants, whereby they could pull the ropes or push the beams required to facilitate the lifting mechanism of whatever crude devices they had. So we can see how elephants are the solution. There is no reason to believe the Great Pyramid required extraterrestrial intervention, and no reason to waste time fantasizing that it was built by human hands alone. The simple fact that no record of its construction exists in dynastic Egyptian records shows strong proof that it was a pre-dynastic construction, which would have been most likely done by the preceding cultures such as Nakata that lived amidst and utilized elephants. If the Great Pyramid had indeed been built by the dynastic Egyptians, then there would be no end to the talk and record of it in their dynastic texts of the time, and we would thus have record of such. But there is none of this. Because it was built in pre-dynastic times, likely before 3600 BC, and not built in dynastic times around 2600 BC. The Great Pyramid itself shows no evidence to having been a dynastic project. If it had been one, the regalia would be evident throughout. But it isn't. This is because it is pre-dynastic. The Great Pyramid was not built as a tomb, to function as a tomb. The tombs inside were either pseudo-tombs from the start, or later additions by the dynastic Egyptians. Even the scholars admit these facts. But then what was it built as, or to function for? It was not built to be a castle, or house, or fortress, or viewpost, or lighthouse, or wall. I believe the logical answer is that it acts as a great paperweight, to seal up and block, to conceal and hide, a hidden entrance to a labyrinth cavern underground, in which is stored a Neolithic treasure house of world treasures. The natural riches on the earth in those ancient days would have been astounding, with gems and gold going in the hands of the first who stumbles upon them in those days. As tribes grew in strength and knowledge and power, they would discover and conquer and earn and store wealth. The 13-acre base would be concealing a likely small entrance, possibly under just one of the thousands of stone blocks that cover the 13-acre spread. This would lead to an entrance underground, likely with a stone staircase leading immediately into a cavern system labyrinth with pitfalls. Yet somewhere down there is likely a massive chamber, likely with flowing water of an underground stream, which contains the vast storehouses of ancient treasures. The labyrinth cavern system would act as the best treasure chest or bank vault, and the Great Pyramid would act as the best lock to keep everyone else out. Only the initiates would know the secret ways in, to have access to the stores of treasure and ancient wisdom recordings. It is much like to the lore of the secret entrance to Eden, being hidden and guarded by the cherub sphinxes. The fiery sword may well be a river of lava or natural fire underground in these proposed cavern regions. The book of Ezekiel says that the adversary once walked amidst the stones of fire, or gleaming stones, and gives an illusion that he was a cherub. The gleaming stones could well be an allusion to the Great Pyramid and its companions of the time, as they originally gleamed and reflected sunlight off their polished and capped exteriors. The guarding cherubs could be allusions to the Sphinx, and this site at Giza does appear to be pre-diastic at around 3600 BC or older. Adam was created in 4107 BC, and Enoch was born 622 years later, which would be in this time frame we are speaking of. Giza may have also been built alternatively by the children of Cain, as it records in Genesis that they went off to build the first cities. It is very interesting to consider both cases. The guarding cherubs could be the Sphinx and its hidden or lost companion, and the gleaming stones could have been the Great Pyramid and its companions of the time. The fiery sword, as I stated, could be a river or wall of fire that occurs naturally underground. It may either be the actual entrance to the Eden we were kicked out of, or it could be a replication of such by the Cainites, or it could just be a fancy treasure house for an ancient pre-dynastic culture. In all these cases, the pyramid would act as a huge capstone or paperweight to block entrance to the special place. But in any case, mankind would have used elephants to build these things. Thank you for your time hearing my theory. I hope you enjoyed. Please help support me.